Happy Tuesday, last Tuesday of July. This is the ending of the first season of the Rig on Wheels show featuring MVT. And then next week it'll be the second season.
Yeah.
That's super fantastic, awesome. Darcella reminded me of that. But this is your first ever truck driving recruitment show, and you have me, which I am Kameel Gaines, your host, and of course Robert Pierson, the VP of recruiting himself over there at Mesilla Valley. We have this pleasure of having you down here in Houston.
Yeah. Nice weather. There's not a hurricane, so half the battle's won.
Did you come down here on the fast train?
No, not yet, but that's not probably till the 2030s.
Okay.
Maybe early.
Okay. I was on there today, though. I was imagining that I was there today. But we actually come and we bring you everything, your industry news, your insights, your futuristic situations, apparently. But, of course, your tips, your driver tips, your recruitment tips, everything. So we're here to make history together, guys. And so we're going to get started with this here news.
Yeah, we got a lot going on. Freight-wise, down 6.5%. Drive-in was down 6 cents to $2.21 a mile. Flatbed down 1 cent, reefer down 5 cents. Load to truck ratio is one of the things we've been watching. We've been trying to stay above that 5-to-1 ratio on dry-van. Dry-van's at 4-to-1 for this past week, 12-to-1 on flatbed, 6-to-1 on reefer. I can tell you that some of the rates that we're seeing specifically in the Southwest, Southeast tend to be really soft at this moment. So you normally have that spike after July 4th going into the second half of the year. Been somewhat flat. The spot markets, we've seen rates that have been, 50 cents plus fuel. So there's been some ugly freight rates out there. We'll have to see how it plays out. Hopefully this doesn't stay that way for long. A lot of companies, though, complaining right now of available trailers and a soft spot market. So hopefully we see that turn around. You would think that it would after the hurricane and a number of other things. But we'll also have to see what's offline at this moment as well.
Yeah, most definitely. That is for sure. Now let's talk about how you feel about the diesel. I know the diesel is going down, and then we have, like you were saying, the ratio with the trucks not being above 5 like you wanted. So how do you feel with the planning of it all? Because everybody got a plan.
Well, I will say this. So national average right now down 1.1 cents to 376.8 a gallon. That was released July 29th. This is the third week in a row and that it's dropped on the fuel side of it. Totaling 9.7 cent drop in that period. We're also still paying 35.9 cents less than we did this time last year. One of the things to be in mind, though, and it's one of the dark sides of low fuel, is it tends to be an indicator on the economy. As much as we want really, really cheap fuel, if you look historically when we've had our cheapest fuel as taking in inflation into account, 2008 recession would have been really low fuel. If people would point and go, "Hey, Trump left office with $1.80, whatever it was."
Yeah.
Well, we were in the middle of the pandemic, and not a lot of people were traveling, so that number looks good on paper. But if you recall what was taking place at the time, there was a reason why fuel was that cheap. Not looking forward to fuel going up in price, but we'll have to watch what it does over the next several weeks here. In an ideal world, in the trucking world, we probably want it to hold steady. If we could sit at about 376 a mile, 375, 370, and have it hold steady, that would be a good indication that the economy is showing some strength. It would also show that the people relying on the spot market are not being killed by fuel, as there's normally not a fuel surcharge associated with the spot market rate.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted you to allude to. As much as we want the fuel to go down, we need to be realistic, because if it goes down too much, that means our economy is not doing very well.
Oh, yeah. If you saw a week where there was a 20-cent drop, something bad is happening.
Right. Something bad is happening, and it has to adjust some type of way, right? Something else is definitely going on, and we have to think about it in that type of way. Now, I know it's something else that you wanted to pull up there, so we're definitely going to do that.
Well, we got a few things, not in the live version of this, but when we do this to where we put the extra stuff out there over the course of the week. One of the things that we've been talking a little bit about here is, the challenges of being a driver on the road.
Yeah.
there's a lot of reasons why you want to watch the news. So there's an interesting video out right now talking about how they're trying to build the fast-speed rail service between DFW and Houston, I-45. Houston knows traffic very well. If we look at I-10 between Katy and Houston, it is the widest interstate in America, 36 lanes. And even then, there's always traffic backed up on it. Friday afternoon, it might as well be a parking lot. So the challenge in the state of Texas is that growth, and it's a positive, is going to continue in the state of Texas, in particular Houston and DFW. What they're looking at doing, Amtrak's already been involved with this, is creating that high-speed rail service, emulating Japan. It most likely hits in the 2030s. I think the state's trying to avoid what they've done in California, where they've spent billions of dollars for nothing. They've completed about 50 miles of train out there in California, train tracks that lead to nowhere, employs a bunch of people. But truth be told, by 2050, that line between San Francisco and LA will not be complete. They will never make their money back on it. So Texas is being somewhat cautious. From a trucking industry standpoint, we definitely want this because it eases congestion. Their idea is that for the first 10 years, they're going to have about 1.3 million users. After that, about up to 13 million users. There is a lot of opportunity there because you can only continue to expand out that interstate for so long. And if you're like us, we do a lot of I-45 between Houston and DFW. There are parts, one of the things I like in New Jersey that you'll find on the turnpike up there is they separate the cars and the trucks. You have your lanes for the trucks and your lanes for the cars. The challenge is you can't really do that to I-45 without expanding, closing down businesses, knocking over restaurants.
And you can't do that.
You can't do that. And so you could with eminent domain, but there'd be an economic consequence to doing it.
I would just be picketing.
Oh, absolutely. And you won't be alone.
Yes.
I like, what is it, Papacitos down here? I don't want it to fall victim to that. So one of the things to watch on this is the high-speed rail between DFW, I think Bryan College Station was one of the stops, and then Houston. I think that it's one of the things again, we're not talking until 2030, but if you are a trucker, you want this. You want to take less people off the road so that as a truck, you can operate effectively and efficiently. So it's going to be one of those things to watch over the next several years.
But 2030 in adult language, because what are we at now? 2024, we're about to be 2025. So in adult language, 2030 is tomorrow.
Yep.
Okay. To be honest with you. So what I did was when we were talking about this, I made sure that I had some reasons why this was important, not just for transportation, which I'm opponent of the transportation industry, but as everybody knows, we're in trucking, so it's more important than that. I took off my glasses, so I had to make this bigger. So you already talked about the congestion and the efficiency, but of course the wear and tear on the roads and everything. We already have the heavy trucks on the road.
Yep.
That's important. That is what it is. They can't fly, so got to have that. Then it optimizes with the last mile delivery.
Yep.
We need that. Workforce mobility, because there are a lot of people that work in Dallas and vice versa.
Yeah.
And then, like, for an example, when I have to travel to Mansfield, I have to travel to Dallas for certain reasons. That's why I was telling you an hour ago or 30 minutes ago, like I was envisioning myself on this Japanese train. And I was in peace. And I was able to go to Dallas in 90 minutes versus 3.5, 4 hours. And don't let it be like last week. It typically only takes 3.5 hours or less for me to get from Spring, Texas to Mansfield, Texas.
Yep.
But last week, because something happened, it literally took longer than that, which is crazy. But the environmental benefits. So we always talk about the sustainability and all of that. So, but the environmental benefits of it all. Okay, so you got the long haul trucks. It's not a whole lot you can do about that unless we start talking about the electronic trucks and all of it. But less cars on the road will definitely help out with that. Now, I'm Texas now. I know I'm from Chicago, but I'm a Texan at this point, except for the football team. I don't root for anybody. But anyway, that's the point. But the economic growth of it all. So just thinking about, first of all the jobs that will come about because of having to do this $1 billion thing. How many billions of dollars is it going to take?
I think right now about 30.
Okay, that's a lot of money.
It is.
I haven't been able to count up that far yet.
I don't have it in my couch cushions.
Right. And then just everything that is going to take just all the economic growth. I'm not even abreast on all the intricacies for it. But that's what I have here. You kind of.
I think the
off the top of
infrastructure
your head.
becomes really important because
Mm.
Texas is primed for growth between the population growth,
Yeah.
the expansion of NAFTA and near sourcing out of the Valley area. You know, when we talk about McAllen, Laredo, and El Paso, when we look at that, we have access to oil and gas and other resources.
I like you saying we now.
Well, I'm technically in Texas, despite your objections. So if you look at DFW now, they are about a year away from having windmill towers that are now a kilometer into the sky, where the wind doesn't stop. So we control a lot of our own destiny over the next 20 years, which from an economic standpoint adds to a big benefit because you've got to have water and you've got to have energy. Those are the two things for any economic growth. So when you add that, you have to have the infrastructure to support said growth. So it's going to be interesting to see how this develops over the next 5 to 10 years.
And then some other things that we have going on, the benefits here in Texas versus other places in all of Texas, even El Paso, right? So the fact that we are the second largest state, not just in land, but also in folk here. Our GDP is huge. It's larger, more grand than the entire Canada.
Yeah.
Okay, that is huge. That is a huge statement that I just said right there. We are our own economy. If we can just get this power grid in order, we would really be cooking with some grease.
Yep.
And I think that needs to get in order before we really do this train system.
Oh, I think it's coming.
It has to.
Yeah, it's coming.
Then we have to talk to somebody about it. But I definitely believe in this. I'm one that is pushing it. We have the land for it. We have the people for it. We're ready for it.
Yep.
It should be here.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent for it here.
I agree with you. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
One of the things we also talk about here, we have a lot of acquisitions. We've been talking about it over the past several months that these acquisitions are going to stop. Of course, we recently talked about
not going to stop.
Or not going to stop. Thank you. TFI International, I believe they're number 4 on the transport topic, top 100, based out of Montreal. Their CEO was talking about how 2025 and 2026, they are aggressively going to be acquiring other companies. They, of course, are the company that picked up Dasky.
Yeah.
Dasky used to have Boyd Brothers, Oregon Central, and about a dozen other companies under it. So you should see them continue to grow. And then Knight Swift, they, of course, acquired U.S. Express. They now are announcing that they have plans to acquire Dependable Highway Express out of California, Arizona, and Nevada markets. This is an LTL provider. So that's imminently going to get ready to take place. Knight Swift ranks number 7 on transport topic, top 100. So be prepared to see a lot more of this over the remaining months of this year. The CEO, Adam Miller, said it's a strategic step in our goal of building a nationwide LTL network. So you see a lot of these companies now diversifying what they do. Most people do not think of Knight Swift in terms of LTL, but they were active in buying a lot of that equipment from Yellow. They bought a lot of those terminals.
Remember when the whole yellow fiasco happened and Knight Swift was diving into that, and I said, we know they do some LTL stuff, but they're really not a big LTL, and I wonder what this means.
Yep.
And of course, this is what it means. They knew that this was on the horizon. I love it. I love to see all of this play out. I'm so excited about this.
The deal announced July 30th adds about 10% to Knight Swift's LTL terminal and door count, expanding the Phoenix-based carrier company's network coverage to about 70% of the U.S. population. Financial terms were not disclosed, but with that said, this would be why they were very aggressive, because most people looked at companies like Saia, and Saia was involved with it as well as some other companies, but the one that was a surprise was Swift Knight.
Yeah.
Now, not so much. They've continued that growth path.
Yeah, I'm excited. So when people say, Kameel, what do you do on the weekend? Pierson, what do you do on the weekend? This is what we do. This is what we do for fun. This is very, very exciting.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited.
I tend to turn the lights low, flash up transport, ttnews.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really exciting because it answered the question of why because they're not the company you think of when you think of LTL, but now they are a player in this game.
Yep. Let's see. The acquisition marks Knight-Swift's latest move in the LTL sector after its 2021 purchase of the AAA Cooper and Midwest Motor Express. Industry analysts say the deal reflects growing interest in LTL services among large truckload carriers seeking to diversify their operations. So yeah, it goes right into that. Traditionally, you're right. We didn't look at this as a player in the LTL market.
They are now.
So between them and TFI out of Montreal, it's going to be interesting to see what the landscape, and in particular, those top 100 carriers. I'm fascinated by the time we get to 2030, 2040, who's left on there, who's not on there, who's now been swallowed up and gobbled up. But our industry is primed for it. If you think about it, about 75,000 of the carriers in our industry have 5 or fewer trucks. There's not really a lot of big players. Knight-Swift it's massive. Doesn't even come to about 1% of the industry. So it's going to be interesting to see some consolidation. With that said, I'm still optimistic. This is still an industry for your small mom and pop to get started. The ease of entry into the market's definitely there. There's challenges that come around it, but I would keep in mind, even these large behemoths, as they continue to grow, still only make up less than 1% of the industry.
But this is the reason why you always talk about the small kitchen table carriers or owner operators. Their competition is not the other small, it's the large carriers.
That's right. And you can win. You can win with customer service. You can win with relationships. As much as Swift does have really smart, intelligent people, they are not big by luck. You, as a small mom and pop operator, a 1 to 5 person team, you have the advantage, though. You can have a relationship that a Swift could never have. You can have that individual rapport. Now, you have to run efficiently, and you have some challenges that come with that, too. You don't get the buying power of a Swift Knight or Schneider, etc. But there is a place in this industry for the smaller carrier. The key is you have to, cross your T's and dot your I's if you're going to survive in this market.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that is all for our first segment, talking about the news. And what we want to do is go ahead, go to commercial. And I think we should go ahead and dive into hot jobs, because Pierson has quite a few nice hot jobs to talk about. I'm loving it. I think that's a slogan. I'm loving it.
They are not a sponsor, though.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
But that is a slogan. I feel like I got something right. That's all I wanted to say.
Isn't that McDonald's? Ba, 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 ba.
I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Kayla's like, yeah, that's right. It's McDonald's.
McDonald's, leave a comment in the below the video here when we'll talk sponsorship opportunities.
Yes, that definitely would be a nice sponsorship. I do eat them. Yeah, their profitability went down for the first time. It did,
and our show can help them. I am fine with product placement. I'll eat a Big Mac during the show next week. I don't mind.
Yeah, that is for sure. That is for sure. I can eat that. But yeah, so Kayla, let's just go to our first commercial, whichever one, preferably something about food. Welcome back. Welcome back. Kayla could not figure out a good food commercial for us. We'll get that figured out. No problem, everybody. But we do have some hot jobs, Pierson, right? So which one you want Better like to put up first?
I think we're starting with division 110 solo and 110 team, I believe. So let's do the solo first. So, I was in Oklahoma this past weekend. Saw a lot of our trucks on I-40 going through Oklahoma. That would generally be people that are on Division 110 specifically. So if you live out of Albuquerque, El Paso, DFW, Great opportunity. They're going to average about $1,100 to $1,300 a week. Fantastic opportunity in terms of attractive running lanes, I-40, I-20, I-10 a little bit there. And the Colorado Front Range is the north-south run on that. A lot of drop and hook, a lot of direct customers, steady miles, long length of haul. There's a lot to like about this opportunity. Most people are going to do orientation in El Paso for this position. Weekly home time, again, hiring within a 75-mile radius of Albuquerque, El Paso, and DFW. One of the other things that we have, and we can move on to Division 110 for the teams, is Division 110 for the teams adds the run up to the northwest. We occasionally go up there about 10% of the time on our runs. Again, hiring pre-made teams out of Albuquerque, El Paso, DFW, now opening Nashville and Memphis as well. 6 to 7 days out. Great home time. Our teams are averaging anywhere between $3,600 to $4,000 a week. Pre-made teams, so be it a spouse, a relative, somebody that you've worked with in the past. We have a lot of people join us that were trained at another company and then bring their trainer with them to us. Again, a lot of I-40, I-10, I-20, I-30, occasionally going into Colorado, and we'll go up to the northwest as well with one of our direct customers there. About 90% direct customer freight, whole lot of drop and hook. So a wonderful opportunity on that. Again, if you live in Albuquerque, El Paso, DFW, Nashville, or Memphis, be sure to call a recruiter today and we'll have that conversation. Kayla, do you want to bring it up, Vanna? Division 300, we talked a little bit about this last week. We still have openings on there. We hire about 5 to 6 drivers a week for this division. If you're based in El Paso, Texas currently, we'll start opening this up in DFW soon. But right now we're hiring in El Paso, Texas. You'll do orientation right at our home office there in El Paso. You come out of El Paso and you either go towards Laredo, San Antonio, Houston, or DFW, then head up to Denver and come down the Colorado Front Range along I-20, hitting the Raton Pass and Albuquerque as you go into El Paso. We have about 18 customers that make this up. It's 99% direct customer freight. Vast majority is drop and hook. Each of those market, we have local drivers that will do those last mile moves, ultimately allowing you to get home every 4 to 4.5 days. So really consistent. Those people make $84,000 to $85,000 a year on this division, despite the fact they get home every 4 to 4.5 days. It's great. You're able to tell your family and mean it. Hey, I will be home Thursday, or I will be home Friday. So this is one of those divisions that many of you talk about wanting that kind of schedule. This allows you to do that. Again, averaging $84,000, $85,000, $86,000 a year. And Kayla, I think we had Division 410. Division 410, mainly running the Southern Great Lakes or Midwest states as well as the Southeast. Currently hiring out of Nashville, Lexington, Kentucky, and Louisville, Kentucky. Going to average about $1,600 to $1,700 a week. That ends up coming out to anywhere between $85,000 to $90,000 a year. Have a cool productivity bonus with this. So when you run 10,000 miles in the month, which about 75 to 80% of our drivers do that, if you have no tickets, no accidents, nothing that interferes with you getting to a customer on time, we will pay you an extra 2 cents on all your miles retroactively. If you hit 12,000 miles for the week, which about 50% of our drivers do for the month, when you hit 12,000, we'll retroactively actually give you a 5 cent per mile bonus on all your miles that you've run. It turns that job that's paying 85 to 90 very quickly into 90 to 100. It adds up quickly over the course of the year. And the nice thing, it's considered a monthly bonus. And so if you don't hit it this month, the sky's not falling. You have another month that you can go after it. You know, the challenge when you have quarterly or annual bonuses is if you're like me, you're going to make a mistake. Something's going to go wrong. And you hate that you now have 8 months, 9 months to kill until you become eligible again for another bonus. It's not the end of the world. We're going to work with you directly so that you can be successful. And the following month starts all over again. You have a chance at that bonus. So we have this, plus we have a whole bunch of other opportunities. So if you live out of Portland, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, Southern California, we occasionally have local openings. El Paso, Albuquerque, Denver, Colorado Springs, Laredo, San Antonio, DFW, Houston, Nashville, Memphis, St. Louis, Louisville, and Jacksonville, and a whole bunch of other places. You need to call the number. We got a lot of other opportunities.
You get paid to remember all those places, don't you?
Unfortunately, yeah. I have no life outside of trucking.
I don't think I do either. But definitely call a number on the screen, or if you're listening, I can just tell you what the number is: 281-968-3100, 281-968-3100. Also, you can go ahead and go right to the website at rigonwheels.com, click on the driver application tab at the top and fill out fully complete the application, and somebody will get back to you within 24 hours. Okay, so you know what, we want to go to commercial, but when we get back, I think wait, let's do the commercial with Carlos. I know we're going to get another commercial, but right now let's go to commercial with Carlos. Nice looking guy. He's going to talk to you about how he won a car and everything, because I want Pierson to go through that, talking about winning a car and all of that, since you was talking about bonuses. Yep. So let's just keep the bonuses rolling.
Mi nombre es Carlos Vázquez. Tengo trabajando 3 años aproximadamente y somos B1 y andamos en territorio de Estados Unidos. Lo que me gusta de MBT es que tiene buenos viajes, buenos camiones y muy buenas millas. Mi comunicación con el despacho es muy buena y todo eso, y siempre están a la orden del día. ¿Qué pienso del equipo de los camiones? Pues que están muy bien y les dan sus mantenimientos, sus TO y todo lo demás, alineación y balanceo, todo, cambio de llantas y excelente servicio. La compañía cada trimestre regala un auto para los operadores. Me motiva pues a crecer más como persona y pues, para dar el 100, como dicen, para la compañía.
Welcome back. Okay, so Pierson is going to just talk to us about everything, but I really like when he talk about the leaderboard. It's something about it, probably because I'm in sales.
Yeah.
So.
And competition's good. People respond, professionals respond to competition. In the world of an industry that averages 6.5 miles a gallon, we average about 9.5. The reason for that is far and away driver behavioral patterns. We have technology and training and development, but the professional sitting behind the wheel is the biggest reason that we get that kind of fuel economy. And that fuel economy ends up saving us almost $70 million over the course of the year that we're able to focus in putting into driver pay. So when you work with us, we try to reward a couple different ways. We do an MPG bonus. So you always have a bonus related to your MPG and averaging anywhere between a penny to 4 cents a mile. But one of the things that also stands out is quarterly we do driver appreciation events. We try to do it more than once a year. Increases the likelihood we'll be able to see our drivers face to face more often, which we appreciate, and our ownership team does. But when you have the best fuel economy for the quarter, we're going to give a brand new car. There's a leaderboard both inside your truck and your in-cab communications. You can see where you rank versus fleet. But additionally, you can go into any of our terminal locations after about a week into the quarter and see where you are versus your peers. So today you may be 86th. Well, 2 weeks from now, you may have gotten that to 12, and then a week after that, 8, and then 2, and then 1. So it's really about a consistent pattern of great fuel economy over the course of the quarter. You see where you're at. And then when the driver appreciation event comes up, if you see Royal Jones and a string of what seemed like 12 camera people behind it, chances are we're getting ready to give away a brand new car. Somebody wanted out of that terminal.
So it's not the, what is it called? Kayla's going to have to help me. The clearing publisher?
No, we do not. Publishers Clearinghouse. We are not giving away the giant sign. With that said, we love doing it. There is not one particular division that wins it more than any other division. We've had 20-year grizzled vets win it. We've had people that have been with us a total of 9 months that as a team turn around and win. Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember them.
So the goal is we want to work with you on that. And we have an entire department called Driver Services that really focus on your career development, focus on your ability to get the car, advance into newer jobs, potentially have the opportunity to become a trainer, get better home time on a job. They work with you on whatever your career goals are over the next 1 year, 5, 10 years. They have that conversation with you. So it's one of the things that we do that's a little unique to this industry. Additionally, whoever gets the best fuel economy for the year gets a $25,000 bonus. So as an example, we have a gentleman named Roberto Sandoval, really professional guy. He's referred like a dozen people over the years to us, but he's won it 5 different years in his 22-year career. So he's given himself an increase of about $125,000 in pay that he didn't have to run an extra mile on. He just ran efficiently and effectively down the road. So with that said, always be sure to ask your recruiter as you call Rig on Wheels about how the MP bonus works, any productivity bonuses. You will find that we're very unique and we want to reward those that reward us.
You know what? I heard you say something today, and maybe it's the bad lunch that I had that made me hear it better. But it was we know the career services is a personal touch to it, but and the leaderboard is another personal touch. But the technology part, I did not ever hear this before. So the NCAP actually is another leaderboard.
Yeah, and it will show where you are, what you're having progress with. You know, we're fortunate enough that we have a lot of diagnostics in trucks today that we never had in the past. There's a lot of information that truck will give you. Not just, hey, is it time to get a PM, but how are you driving? Are you getting the most out of the truck? Are you needing to use the cruise controller more often? Are you spending too much time idling? There's steps you can take. You know, one of the nice things we have on the trucks are APU units. As much as they are commonplace now, a lot of drivers do not know how to use them. They never receive training on utilizing the APU units. The APU, I'll give you an example. The APU is not meant to cool your truck. It's meant to maintain the temperature. So if you start where it's already 80 degrees in the truck and you turn on the APU, it works unbelievably hard and it will never cool down the truck, and eventually it will break on you. But between the training and the technology, we want to work with the driver of, hey, no, get your truck to 65, then you kick on the cruise control or the APU, and it works for you, and it'll keep it at 65. It's those little things and understanding how to use the APU, the cameras, the cruise control that add up over the course of a month to where the person's getting 8 miles a gallon and the person getting 10 miles a gallon. Those two drivers are not that different. It's just the little things, and those little things add up. In the world of trucking, we have a saying, you need to mind your pennies and the dollars kind of take care of themselves. Mind your pennies, and we'll work with you to help mind those pennies so that the dollars then for you and us take care of themselves.
Okay, so it's a few things that you said here, and this might be the reason why now MVT's retention is so much better. And how long have you been at MVT?
May 3rd of 21.
You want me to do math, or what are we doing? You know I don't feel well.
Oh, I've
today.
not added that up. I
Okay.
can tell you it was May 3rd. I got that.
Okay, we know that. What year are we in? 2024?
2024, that's
So
right.
we're a little over 3 years. Okay, that's good. So I'm not gonna say it's all you, but what I know it's a team. But what I will say is significantly better. So drivers that have never learned how to deal with the APU and what it's for, and different people that learn differently, right?
Yep.
So on the Hello Retention show last week, we had Eileen Dabrowski, and she is a professional expert when it comes to people learning differently and different communication styles and all of that. So kind of explain to me maybe 2 or 3 different drivers that might have to learn differently when it comes to something like I'm not going to say as simple as an AP unit, because obviously it wouldn't be as simple for me. So just how, like when I need to remember something, I write it down, right?
Yeah.
So that lets you know that that's how I learn, right? I have to jot it down. So
we have people that figure out something as basic as an APU unit. When they go into class, they watch a video, and boom, got it down, and they're good to go.
Okay.
There's other people that we do the orientation and then sit with them separately. It's either APU or the in-cab communication that they need a little more individualized one-on-one attention. The third way, in the more long-term thing, is I can tell you any job I have ever had, all the way back to getting my first job at Burger King when I was in high school, is I had to physically do it. Like I couldn't remember stuff unless I was physically doing it. And this gets into the turnover rate part of it. Part of that fleet manager's job is continuing education. And this is where you got to have your fleet manager view a driver less as a resource and more as a coworker.
Yeah.
So the challenge for a lot of fleet managers or dispatchers, depending on that, whatever wording you want to use, is it can become very hard when you have 50 drivers relying on you. They're all trying to get information from you. You start looking at a driver the same way you would a trailer or a truck. Your turnover is going to go high, and that driver is not getting anything from you. You offer no intrinsic value to that driver at that point. Part of this is with any coworker. If I were to hire a recruiter, or you hired a recruiter, you have ongoing support with them, especially over that first 90 days, where you may have covered it on their first day, but hey, do you remember this? this. Hey, this example came up. Do you remember that thing I taught you there? Part of that with a fleet manager, their job is that ongoing, what I call advanced orientation, where that fleet manager is working with that individual, that person, that named person that's not a resource, but no different than any other coworker that they have, that they're training up to build them into the driver that they need. And that's going to be the biggest part. It's impacted our turnover rate. It's impacted our productivity on a per truck basis. And more importantly, our drivers tend to have a career path that happens after that. The big thing there, and it sounds like a small thing, but I've seen it in a lot of different companies. Dispatchers will often look at their drivers as a resource, a commodity, a piece of equipment. And I promise you, when you find a dispatcher that has that, their turnover rate's probably over 100%. They constantly complain that they probably never have the right driver. It's always somebody else's fault. And generally speaking, their drivers are miserable and don't view the dispatcher as a resource. Whenever those three things are taking place, I promise you that dispatcher views them as the same way they view the truck.
So I definitely wanted to see how you view to educate, communicate with drivers with something that all drivers have to deal with, and that's an AP unit, but everybody communicates, learns differently.
They do. And I think the thing to keep in mind is technical orientation doesn't end when the orientation ends. There's still information to cover.
Yeah, it's still information to cover. And sometimes we don't know what we don't know.
Yep.
So it's not until you're actually doing the job. And even if somebody is a seasoned driver, that particular thing or equipment or whatever it is, they haven't come across it, or they're not used to it, or that particular company they're not used to.
Yep.
All of that. Okay. It all makes sense, and i.e. why retention is good.
You know, it's one of the things we see. We'll get people that apply to us that have been at the same company for 20 years. It's not always the job hopper. Those people struggle too because they're used to it a certain way. So if you get a driver that was with XYZ Trucking, no tickets, no accidents, you assume, you look at their background and go, they're good to go. They're going to have issues just like that person that's been in the industry for 6 months.
Yeah.
You really have to individualize this.
Yeah. Because they're used to that XYZ company and how they do it in that particular program and all of that. So
it's why a lot of these yellow drivers have struggled mightily since re-entering the workforce.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they're used to that company and how they did things.
Yep.
And also they believe that that's the only way to do it.
Yep.
Because that's what they've become accustomed to.
They've now become kind of like Shawshank Redemption. They've been institutionalized.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and some good, some bad, or however, but each company does things differently. But it's nice to know that the communication is open and MVT knows that everybody has a different learning style. And the drivers have the ability to fall into that. So that's good. Kayla, any questions? I'm kind of looking at my phone just to check as well.
I have one question. How does MVT help drivers and dispatchers make those good connections?
A couple things. Just like our drivers, our fleet managers go through extensive training. We are constantly evaluating, and they also have a financial interest in their drivers being successful. I think it's really important that someone has a financial benefit to doing their job right beyond just getting a salary. We all have, in this type of world, we have a salary, and that's important, but you should have an opportunity at a bonus. But that bonus should be based off of how, if you're in management, how are your people doing? And as I would argue with any fleet manager, you're either a manager or you're not. If you're not managing something, if you're literally just putting the jigsaw puzzle together, you don't really need a bonus. You get a salary and you're good to go. On the flip side, if you're actually managing something, then your financial compensation will be reflected as such. We listen to phone calls. We listen to lost opportunities. When we have a driver that quit, we have a detailed understanding in an exit interview to find out why that took place. Sometimes you can control it as a carrier. Other times you cannot, but we definitely influence it 90% of the time. The other part of that is we have really detailed ticketing. And as Kameel brought up with a company called Hello Retention, In that early part of it, we have ticket items that are really opportunities. So when an issue comes up that's bad or it needs to be addressed, we have accountability at the fleet manager level that they have 24 hours to either resolve it or have the game plan in place on how it will get resolved. That accountability generally makes a significant difference, because if you mentor your drivers, the likelihood that there will be as many resolution tickets or problem issues tends to drop in half dramatically.
And it's safe to say that they're part of the retention team.
They absolutely are. They control it more than anybody else.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is having a full team. Retention is more important than your recruiting. What is the point? It's like for the recruiting part of the house, it's just as we say, the follow-up is more important than getting the application. There's no point of getting the application if you're not going to follow up.
Yeah, and let's be clear. We talk about fuel savings, but there's a lot of other savings. We have a guy named Scott Maldonado that I think is watching today that gave really good advice to the recruiters. And he goes, you are the stewards of the company's money. And I think where that comes into play here is recruiting can get really, really expensive. If you just feed the beast, if you have 150% turnover and you're just bringing them in one after another after another, that isn't free. That's expensive. Between the advertising, the payroll involved, the hotel expenses, the planes, trains, and automobiles, it adds up quickly to where we're talking about millions of dollars before you know it.
Right.
So the thing about it is do you want to feed the beast? And it's that difference between recruiting and capacity development. Are you bringing the right person in for the right job at the right time in the right location, or are you just filling the truck? Now, I understand as a carrier, if you have a big percentage of your trucks open, trust me, your boss is going to want you to fill the trucks.
Right.
If you can fill the trucks, you get the luxury of getting capacity development. But the big part of that is you have to bring the right person in for the right job in the right location. If you don't do that, you will be just feeding the beast repeatedly.
Yeah, and the whole point is you want to be specialized, and you can't be specialized if it's just a huge turnover. You don't want to be known as that company that can't keep a driver. It just, and then it brings on a bad culture.
Yeah, it does. And once you go down that pathway, you can't pull it back. It is not a quick fix.
It's not a quick fix. And even as a third-party recruiter, we all know those companies, right? We know those companies. So certain drivers go to the companies that need just to feed the beast.
Yep. Look,
we know companies that need to feed the beast. So we will have to send certain drivers there because every driver has a place.
Well, and we talk about that from a culture standpoint. Think of NFL teams. There's reasons why the Cleveland Browns are losers. And I mean every year. They don't win anything. And I'm not saying it to be mean like I would the Raiders. Literally, they lose constantly. Right. There's a reason for that. It's cultural. They have poor leadership. At one point, they were paying 6 different head coaches because you still got to pay a coach even after you fire them. They were paying 6 different head coaches. They signed Deshaun Watson for guaranteed money, who had 24 different lawsuits pending on him. There is a reason why they lose. Right. And so the challenge is that culture, they could be fixed, but it's not. It won't happen overnight. It's changing people. It's changing habits. It's doing that. Trucking companies are the same way.
Right, yeah.
When you have a trucking company that is chronically shoving drivers into orientation, and you've seen it as a driver. If you've ever gone to orientation and watched 50% of the class slowly go out the classroom because they've been DQ'd during it, and 100 people becomes 50, becomes 40, you had that experience. That is a giant red flag of ding, ding, ding. What have I gotten into? It takes a long time to fix that, and it's a team effort. There's not one person. There's not one resource. But the big thing as a driver is most drivers will tell you they want stability. They want to be financially stable. They want their high week and their low week to be somewhat the same. They want to be in a position where they can be successful. And so don't join the Cleveland Browns. Don't join XYZ Trucking that has all sorts of red flags. Talk to the driver, talk to the recruiter, have an extended 15-minute conversation. Go to orientation and feel like you're a coworker. You're not a customer. You're not a vendor. You are a coworker. Though that first week, you should know if I've made the right decision or not. You'll have good times and bad, but within a week, you can go, this is going to be a fit.
But, as a third-party recruiter, And also, I'm not the most optimistic.
Yeah.
Sometimes. I know that as much as we come down on the drivers, they need to do this, it's the same as with the carriers. And so there are carriers that aren't doing it. They're not going to do it. They just kind of want to outpace their issue.
Yep.
So they are the ones that are getting those drivers.
Yep.
We know which companies want that. Like they don't want to retain drivers.
No.
Specifically, they don't. They don't have a retention program. They don't have any of those things, and they're not looking for it.
In the conversation that we had with Merrill a couple of weeks ago on the Hello Retention podcast show that you do with Merrill, one of the things that we talked about is retention's not sexy. It's hard. In recruiting, if I do something positively, I get to see it the next week. Like instant gratification.
Yeah.
We made this change and boom, I see the result. Retention's not. It's a long, grueling process where I can do everything correctly, but I may not see the positive reinforcement for 6 months to a year.
And it rips back all the bad.
You got to call your baby ugly.
Yes.
If you're not willing to have that conversation about, hey, you know what, maybe it's me. And that's a hard conversation, but you grow as an adult. And in the world of business, you make a lot better sound decisions if you're willing to say, my baby's ugly. Maybe not in that context. I don't use every correct metaphor, but our baby was ugly and we addressed it.
I mean, but in trucking, a lot of our babies are ugly, like literally, but we have become a culture, just like it's our fault on executives or whatever level, that in the trucking where we allow truck drivers to feel like it was okay to switch jobs like this, right? So it also is our fault as trucking companies not to have retention programs.
Yeah, we've done a lot of things as an industry that we've fed the beast, that we made it hard. Technically, drivers could show up to multiple orientations, walk out of orientation, and had no shame to call back a year later and go, I'm ready to start. And we were okay with it. In all fairness.
I mean, in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and in all fairness, we didn't give much back to the driver either. And so we've had this symbiotic relationship where we've lacked some of the professionalism as an industry that we probably should have had across the board. I even take some accountability to that. I've probably done things over my time in the industry since the beginning of 2006 that probably did not help. So I think the key thing is being professional, communicating, focusing on career development, focusing on retaining good drivers. And like I said, hiring the right person from the right location for the right job at the right time. If we do those things 9 times out of 10, it's going to work out for us.
Yeah, because as companies literally have to say, do you, and it's okay if you're not that company, but you need to really say that you're not that company. Are you that company that is going to retain or work towards retaining the driver or not?
I think as a carrier, as companies, though, we have a bit of an identity crisis. I've seen carriers that 30% of their freight's dedicated business, but will describe themselves to a driver as we're a dedicated carrier.
But I don't think they are identity. They're liars.
No, I think they believe it. Legitimately, I think they believe it.
But they can't. They're not stupid. They're liars.
I've seen that. I've seen companies, hey, we are legitimately a good company. And in all fairness, if someone pays you every single week, you're not going to go, we're real jerks. No one does that. But think about the lines we've heard. We have an open door policy. If your headquarters like Fort Knox, you do not have an open door policy. If a driver cannot physically get to the CEO and have a conversation, stop using the term we have an open door policy. You don't. Yeah. We've had carriers call themselves dedicated carriers. We've had carriers that refer to themselves as having new equipment. A 5-year-old truck, if you have 1,000 trucks, is not new equipment.
Is that new equipment?
I have industry-leading pay. I know a carrier right now that has advertising in a magazine that says industry-leading pay is paying 32 cents a mile for a driver with 5 years of experience.
But
you don't have industry-leading pay.
They do have industry-leading pay.
Not at 32 cents a mile.
It's industry-leading low. So it depends on how you look at it.
This is not golf, though. This is not golf.
But see, what it is, what they're doing is a marketing play. It's lying.
Yes. Being vague can be a lie.
Yeah.
When you're vague, as my wife has pointed out to me numerous times, just because you're aloof or vague doesn't mean you've told me the truth. Like, that's sometimes worse than the lie.
Yes, I would agree. 100%.
We were in the mall, and my wife asked, "Did you look at that woman?" And I go, "I'm not saying I did or didn't."
Oh, see.
That's a lie.
Yes, that is a lie. But what I will say, I could not. What I will definitely say is carriers need to be honest within their table and decide what type of carrier they're going to be.
Yeah, and I think it's important to identify your value propositions. We've shared Division 430 on here before.
Mm-hmm.
So if you live in Jacksonville, our division is not the highest paying division.
Right.
That's not our value proposition. Our value
It's
proposition.
the fact that you don't have to go up and down 95.
Yeah, you're not going up in the Northeast or dealing with Atlanta. You're sticking to I-10, which is a really attractive running lane for somebody. I think it becomes disingenuous when you go, I have the highest paying job in Jacksonville, because any driver that does a 5-minute Google search will go, no, you don't.
Right.
My value proposition, and this is where as a carrier, you have to identify what's our value proposition. What is it that we do well? Now, I would argue, you're a recruiter that cannot list off 20 to 40 different value propositions that you offer to prospective driver, because not every value proposition is meant for every driver.
Right.
But if your recruiter cannot point to about 20 to 40 things that you think you guys do well and have evidence to point to it, you're setting a driver up for failure. And your recruiter knows it at that point. It puts the recruiter in a position that they feel like they need to lie to you, which is not good.
No, it's not good. But that also goes back to the marketing that we need to be doing, in that it's storytelling. And the storytelling in a good way, not the storytelling that when your mother was raising you and said, don't say lie.
Yeah.
So we need to do storytelling in our marketing, storytelling in our sales and things like that. So we can talk about the benefits and how this actually is going to work out for someone and find out more about the other person.
I will say this, so we're coming up on that time. Can we talk about the value proposition of the Big Blue Beast?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're coming up on that time there.
Oh, yeah.
I want Joe to have his moment of 15 minutes of glory.
Yes. Vanna, can you play the commercial with Joe talking about the Blue Beast?
At Mesilla Valley Transportation, every driver is behind the wheel of a late model International LT, a truck that takes comfort, convenience, and safety to a whole new level. Join us as we explore the impressive features of this powerhouse on wheels. The open road is full of surprises, and sometimes that includes unexpected encounters with wildlife. But worry not, the International LT has you covered. The front end protection guard offers an extra layer of defense, protecting you from animal strikes. Drive with confidence, knowing that you're shielded from the unexpected. We all know how important it is to keep our batteries charged, and our International LTs have your back. The Cummins X15 is equipped with an auto start feature, ensuring that your batteries are automatically recharged when they run low on volts. It's a seamless process that keeps you powered up and ready to hit the road. Disc brakes and an engine brake provide reliable and safe stopping power when you need it most. You can have peace of mind knowing that you're in control. Safety is at the forefront of what we do. Our International LTs are equipped with top-of-the-line safety features to ensure your well-being while out on the road. These tractors are equipped with Bendix fusion protection, collision mitigation, and lane departure warning. Achieving good fuel efficiency deserves recognition. With the International LT, your efforts don't go unnoticed. When you consistently achieve impressive miles per gallon, the International LT rewards you with increased speed. It's a little extra motivation to keep you pushing for better fuel economy. After a long drive, you're ready for a well-deserved break. With the International LT, you can enjoy your rest period in absolute comfort. Thanks to its auxiliary power unit, you can keep your driver's cabin heated or cooled just the way you like it. No matter the weather outside, you'll always find your sweet spot within our International LTs. The International LT understands that comfort extends beyond driving. It's a space where you can truly feel at home. I'm a big guy, and I have room to move around in here. With plenty of room to spare, the International LT accommodates even the tallest drivers. And there's ample storage for all your clothes, cooking essentials, and tools, making life on the road even more convenient. Speaking of cooking, bring along your appliances and don't sacrifice any luxuries thanks to all of our International LTs being equipped with built-in inverters. Dry your hair, make a smoothie, or play a game. all from the comfort of your truck. We take pride in our well-maintained fleet. And if by chance you do come across something wrong on your truck, you're never far from help, thanks to our valuable relationship with Penske. With more than 750 brick-and-mortar Penske shops nationwide, their expert team is always ready to assist you. From routine maintenance to unexpected repairs, they'll get you taken care of and back on the road in no time. And there you have it. Just a few things about this late model International LT that make MVT the place to be.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. So we love when Joe sits up there. Well, he's not sitting, he's standing up there talking about the Blue Beast.
Yep.
Well, first of all, just the fact that it's so big in the condo and you have drivers that need that room.
Yeah, so, we're kind of unique. Most of our folks have weekly home time. Our truck's set up for that person that's out on the road 3-4 weeks at a time, and quite frankly, teams. So traditionally, if you went to a small regional carrier, you get like a 56-inch sleeper berth. Our sleeper berth is 71. It's set up for a team. So when you're on the road, you will not be cramped. Joe is a big dude. He is not cramped in that truck whatsoever. Got plenty of space to move around. The APUs are fantastic. Again, we work with you on how to utilize that APU to its fullest. So when you're in markets like Dallas where you cannot idle your truck for more than 30 minutes, that APU is a godsend. Especially running in the southern U.S., you have to have an APU or you will lose all profit through your fuel loss. With that said, we have about 700 brand new International LTs with the Cummins engine coming on board over the next about 6 to 8 months. So we'll replace out that back end. So you will be in a late model truck. You're talking 2021, 2022, 2023 or newer. You will be in a late model truck, an established truck. We try to put our teams in the brand new truck that are high mileage, but it's great equipment. We refer to it in town locally in El Paso, which is part of Texas, as the Big Blue Beast. And so you'll see our equipment on the road. We're kind of like a territory. You know how we have Guam as a territory of the U.S.? Would you accept El Paso as a territory of Texas?
But does El Pasoans
sounds right?
Do they consider themselves Texas?
Oh, they do.
Oh,
they absolutely do.
Oh, okay. Then I'll stop.
They absolutely do.
I probably won't stop, but I'll
you won't stop. I have, by next week, we'll be having this discussion again. Congratulations, El Paso. I got you recognized as a territory.
I'm going to have an anti-bully campaign.
El Paso will be grateful for that.
But yeah, I do really like it. When you said the Cummins engine, it reminded me, I don't know, it was a while ago. It could have been last week or last year, but it was part of this year. Somebody was bobtailing on 45, the Killer Highway, and they had a huge box actually, and it had a Cummins engine. I guess they was taking it. Yeah. So I was like, oh, I know what that is.
Really good equipment, a lot of horsepower. The maintenance on it is really a big part of that engine. That engine has performed very well. We don't have to do as many PMs. We don't lose as much time. It doesn't break down very often. Granted, we have late model trucks, and so we're not ever going to have to do an engine overhaul. Unfortunately, your smaller carriers or somebody that would have a truck that's 8, 9, 10 years old, they're often going to have to rebuild an entire engine. We don't run into that. But for the time that we use it in that 3 to 4 year cycle, it does very well for us. Between that and the great equipment we have in other areas of the business, like our facilities, as well as our trailer pool, we generally run about a 4-to-1 trailer pool ratio. So one of the nice luxuries for our drivers, because of what we do, is they're not having to spend hours looking for one of our trailers. They can find our trailers quick. The likelihood that they're getting a trailer in good condition is extremely high, because if you've been an experienced driver on the road, if you've been in the industry for more than 3 years, you have gone to a yard, either A, had to play the bad game of the Easter egg hunt of finding one of your trailers from your respective company, or B, getting that trailer and discovering, oh, it's got a flat tire. The axle's broken. Somebody's graffitied on the side. A long list of possible things. Having good equipment, I cannot emphasize enough, and it's not just the trucks, it's also the trailers, becomes imperative, because if you don't have the resources to be successful in the job, you will not be successful.
You won't be successful if the wheels ain't turning, you ain't earning.
That is absolutely correct.
And that is the top or the bottom of the show. Don't know which one it is, but what I will say is potato.
Yep.
we will see you guys next week, and that will be season 2, and it will be August. Yeah.
Yeah, that seems right.
It will be August, according to the calendar. So we will see you guys next week. Be safe. I feel like America is still having a lot of bad weather here and there in different places. So you all just be safe, and we'll see you guys next week, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. So bye.